Hey, welcome back to Movement with Tim. So we're back to the upper body series. So you had 2 weeks to work on the first part of the series, and today we're gonna mix up some of the movements. Now, the props that I have for today's class are these 50-pound weights. No, I'm just kidding. They're only 3 pounds. They're just to start to train the muscle to have resistance. I also have a rod that you could just use a broomstick instead of, or I don't know what else. A broomstick is a good thing. And then also I have a band, a resistance band. So we're gonna need those few things. Okay, now before we get started training the arms directly, we're just gonna lie down onto the back and get the feeling of the shoulder heads dropping down. So I put a link below for a little rollout series that helps to release the tension in your shoulders and your neck, because lots of the time all the tension we hold in the shoulders pulls the shoulders up towards the ceiling when you go to lie down and towards your neck. So that's a great way to start so that we can get better movement with our shoulders. So if you haven't already, try that video first. Okay, so now if you've done that video, you'll feel that the shoulders can relax a lot better. So now with my shoulder heads grounding, I'm gonna slowly start to lift my hips up. And as my hips go up, I keep releasing and actually gently reaching the shoulder heads, the humeral head to be more specific, into the ground. And then slowly lower the hips. I'll just do this a couple times just to wake up the back muscles. Slowly lift the hips as the humeral heads descend, the top of the arm bone, shoulder, and lower down. One more time, humeral heads descending, and then lower the hips. Okay, now take your arms straight up as your humeral heads descend, and then one leg at a time, bring the legs up in a table. Reach the tailbone out of your lower back. Then slowly lower your right knee away from you as you drop your left arm back, and bring it all back up. Feel your core turn on. Slowly change sides, so just waking up the core muscles, starting to wake up the shoulders, back up, change sides. If you want to make it a little more challenging, you could stretch the legs straight out. Just make sure that your low ab turns on that side. Keep the neck free. Try not to let the upper traps take over. All right, then set your feet down, roll over to your side, press yourself up to seated. Last little part of the warm-up here, we'll do a little bit of cat-cow and then arm swinging. So round your back as you look back at your navel, and then inhale, arch your back, wheel your chest forward. Okay, then come into neutral, open up your hands even into your mat, and then visualize your thoracic spine, your middle upper back spine staying very long as you slowly start to stretch back. And keep both hands even on the mat, even if you can't go back very far. And back up. And as you inhale, slowly start to stretch back. Keep the thoracic spine lengthening. And then back up. Then step up, and in this little half forward fold, draw your navel up, and then start to make swinging motion with your arms. So just let your hand kind of like hang towards the floor, and then swing the other direction. And then swing your arms back and forth. And then come up to stand, and we'll just make like a swimming motion with the arm. And then in reverse. And then a little swinging side to side. And then the last one, take your arms like goalpost arms, and as you inhale, reach your arm up and over, stretch through your side, change sides. And then drop your arms down at your side. Okay, cool. Now let's start to do our little training routine. All right, so the first one that we're gonna do is with the bicep. So first, when we go to do these movements, I just want you to feel that you can engage your bicep muscle without your shoulder head rolling forward. So the same feeling like when it was back on the floor. So we're gonna do the movement without weight. So just bend your elbow, bring your hand towards your shoulder, but don't let the shoulder head roll to meet the hand. Keep the shoulder head back. All right, so that's one movement we're gonna do. Just I want you to feel what that feels like. And the next movement that we're gonna do after that is without the shoulder head lifting, engaging the middle deltoid, we're gonna raise the elbow out to the side. And if you're very tight, you might feel that it's a stretch just to hold the arm up like that. And you can just do that without weight if you, like for me, it's quite a bit of a stretch, so I could always just do it without weight until the range of motion gets better. But if you're like, this is, I don't know what he's talking about, I can raise my arm up like this and keep my shoulder head depressed, it's very easy, then you'd add weight. Okay, so don't get so crazy with me, geez. All right, so let's stand up tall. And for the bicep one, I'm gonna add weight. So I'll show you from the side, keeping the shoulder head back in position, head balanced. Slowly start to bend your elbow, bring the hand towards the shoulder, and then change sides. Now, you've already been doing this for 2 weeks. So if you need to add more resistance, that's understandable. If you don't have bigger weights, then you could use the band if it feels like it's better resistance for you. That's if you're really trying to build muscle. But if you're not trying to build big muscle, you just want the muscle to be toned, you don't need to add a bunch of weight. Just waking up the muscle and having resistance on it, it was going to teach it to be toned. All right, now let's see if we can do both at the same time without the shoulder heads coming forward. See, they're coming forward at all. I gotta check myself, sometimes I cheat. And so it's also good to do it in front of a mirror so you can make sure you're not cheating. Okay, good, then drop the weights. Woo, feeling the pump, feeling the burn. Okay, and then we'll try the second movement, which is just out to the side. Pretty good. Middle deltoid stays depressed. Okay, now if you feel like you need to add the weight, of course add the weight, but I'm just gonna do the first round with no weight. Okay, good. Then the last part of this set is the tricep extensions. So you're gonna lie down onto the back, take the rod or whatever you got straight up, and then as you inhale, bend your elbows and see if you can go a little bit further towards your head. But the elbows should stay in, they stay in line with the shoulders and they don't move at all forward or back, and then take it back up. So keep the elbows right over the shoulders and then slowly lower. And back up. And see if you can keep increasing the range of motion. Still keeping the elbows balanced. Just to hold the elbows in that position is half the work. Most elbows don't want to stay in that position because of tension and weakness in the muscles that help to stabilize the shoulders. Now, even though your core isn't that much involved in this, think each time you raise the rod back up or the broomstick, that you're engaging your abs to make it go back up. Okay, that's enough of those. So we're just doing about 10 to 12, and then over the next 2 weeks as you're doing this, you can start to increase the repetitions with these. All I've done is just changed up the sequence a little bit, and instead of taking the band halfway out to the side, now you're raising the arm all the way up. So just slightly different. And then for our last set, we're gonna add a back strengthener, a pulling motion, which is super important. Okay, we're ready to get into those biceps again? Let's get swole. Okay, so stand up tall, shoulder heads back. No laughing, Stacy. Keep the shoulder heads in their position, but also make sure you don't push your ribs out to do it. That's a big tendency. Okay, bend your elbow without letting the shoulder head come forward, and make sure that you don't push your rib cage at all. Let's just go both at the same time. Let's show you the side view. Okay, cool. Then elbows bent, and we'll do the shoulder stabilizer. Take the arm out to the side and lower. Elbow out to the side and lower. So see if you can keep looking for that full range of motion, keeping the shoulder head depressed, not letting it come up by your ear as you raise the elbow. Now, if the movement is not as good as when you're doing it unweighted, then you can just practice the movement unweighted until just that muscle gets stronger. Just the weight of lifting up the forearm itself might be enough because you might not have the range of motion down yet. Okay, then drop those to the side. And let's finish with the triceps. So take your rod straight up, elbows right over the shoulders, and as you inhale, bend the elbows. And then take them back up. 10 here. Try not to let the elbows swing out, and don't use your neck to stabilize. Keep the neck long, instead use your strong triceps and your core muscles. Now I know you've been doing this one already for a couple weeks, so if you need to add more resistance, if you have free weights that you can do it with, that's actually the most challenging to try to keep the elbow in that position. But if you've been doing this one for the last 2 weeks and you're like, I got this one down, then do the free weights, but try to get just as clean of movement. So the bar is forcing the hands to kind of stay in this perfect alignment with the shoulder. With the free weights, your hands are going to want to go all over the place. So it requires much more stability muscles. It's actually the best way to be doing it. Last one. And back up. Okay, cool. So we busted out all that. And let me just show you a demonstration of the free weight one so you could see. It would be like this. Oh, it's so much harder. So much more focus. Good. So yeah, maybe you'll start to do that one in this sequence by, if you've already practiced the video a couple times, third, fourth time, you can do that to make it more challenging. But keep the alignment. That's more important than adding more levels of difficulty. Okay, so this next one is a really important movement that we do not get a lot of in yoga. We don't get a lot of pulling movement. We get a lot of pushing, we do a lot of planking, but not a lot of pulling movement, which helps to keep your shoulder blades set onto the back. So now really important when I'm doing this movement is that when I go to pull the, what the hell is this thing called? A band. When I pull this band back, I don't want my shoulder head to come forward. So just like the bicep training that we did. So we can even just hold here in this resistance. So get into to where you feel a little bit of mild resistance. And then remember at the beginning when you're moving your shoulder heads into the floor, do that action, but make sure you don't thrust your rib cage forward to do it. So ribs in, strong core, and then shoulder heads back. Okay, then slowly release the tension in the band, and then pull back again. And slowly release, and pull back. And just feel those muscles in your back contract like you're pressing your shoulder heads back, but don't push your bottom ribs forward to do it. And we'll just do that 4 more times. And we're holding that tension for a second or 2 before we release. Okay, cool. So that's what it feels like to use your back muscles. Now let's go into a plank motion, which we do a ton of in yoga already, but I want you to feel that as you go to set up, that your chest stays broad, and then your core turns on, and then step the legs up. And just keep feeling as you're pressing down into your knuckles and your fingerprints that your chest doesn't close to do it. Those arm bones stay back in position. And then set your knees down. Now the very important work is to turn on those external rotators and back muscles in these prone positions. And this is going to help all of your belly back bends and stuff in yoga and your up dogs. So I have my knees bent, feet pointing up. I take my arms out to the side. Now let me just show you what external rotation is. In this position, it's when you turn your arm like this, where you raise the forearm away from the floor, so the muscles in the back of your armpit, shoulder turn on. Okay, so you got external rotation. I lift my head up, then I lift my elbows up, so my arms are internally rotating, and I reach the elbows away from each other. Then, one arm at a time, I externally rotate so that the wrist lifts up, and I feel those muscles in the back of the armpit, shoulder connection, turn on, to where we were rolling out earlier, if you rolled out before this video. Now, lift the skin of your lower belly to support the length of your lower back, and pull your spine longer, like in a T shape. From the tail to your crown, lengthen, and from elbow to elbow, reach away from each other. Keep externally rotating. 30-second hold here. And lower yourself down. Last one, arms back at your side, legs stretch out, lift the head, lift the hands up, roll the shoulder heads. So it might help you to press the fingertips down to roll the shoulder heads, and then see if you can stretch one hand back by lifting the fingers, and then the other without the shoulder heads rolling in. If you need to keep the fingertips down because your chest muscles are too tight, then just keep the fingertips down. That would be better for you than adding the resistance of the arm. And then lower yourself down. So this is all about doing these little micro, finer tuned movements that we're doing. It's all about muscle recruitment and making sure that we're using the right muscles. So if your chest muscles are very tight and you're just trying to do this movement without recruiting the wrong muscles, adding a bunch of weight and still doing it with a closed chest is ridiculous. So yeah, so if you need to just do this movement with no weight, do this movement with no weight, do this with like the least resistance band because you don't want your neck to take over, you don't want to do it by shrugging your shoulders. I'm more into that than adding a bunch of weight. So let's go through it again. But what you're gonna start to feel throughout practicing this, if you practice this a couple times this week, you're gonna start to feel that your body will call you into adding more resistance. It'll be like, okay, I can do this easy now, this is boring. And it'll start to call you into more resistance. Then you can add it if you feel that intuitively, instinctively. By the end of the month, for sure, you're gonna need to add more resistance to these. Okay, so let's see. Chest is open, but ribs are in, strong core. And then I exhale and squeeze back there, but I make sure that the shoulder heads draw back. I see so many people, like I teach yoga at some gyms, and I'll walk by people doing this with their back just completely hunched over, and I'm like, geez, what a waste of just hurting yourself. Okay, slowly squeeze and make sure the shoulder heads draw back. And then take the arms forward, release the tension, pull back, shoulder heads back into position, but core engaged, ribs in. And release. We'll hold it for 2 seconds again. Use the exhalation. Good, 5 more. Keep looking for that same feeling at the beginning when you're pressing the shoulder heads into the floor. Okay, good. Release that. Put your hands down. And then one leg at a time, as you open the hands and get the feeling like the collarbones and the back are broad, step one leg and then the other. Low abs up. Then set your knees down, lower your chest down, bend your knees, open the arms up, and then lift the hands up, belly skin up, pull your spine longer, pull the elbows away from each other. And then lower yourself down, stretch the arms straight back, lift navel, lift chest, lift the shoulder heads first, and then see if you can lift one hand and then the other without the shoulder heads turning in. Good, and then keeping the shoulder heads up, put your hands over by your side ribs. Last position here, like you're doing cobra. Open the hands even into the floor, but still keep feeling the shoulder heads stay back in their position. And then roll yourself up just a few inches, keeping the shoulder heads in their position. Lower back down, and we'll press back into child's pose. So a nice little stretch here for your shoulders and your arms. All right, and then let's just do a little range of motion test here. Put your left hand, internally rotate your left hand and put it onto your lower back. And then take your right arm up, bend your elbow, slide your hand behind your head. And then if you can start to slide your hands closer towards each other without closing your chest or letting your head go forward, start to do that. But if you're feeling a nice stretch in this tricep, shoulder, chest on the top arm, just hang out there. You don't need to wiggle the hands closer towards each other. Go to the place where you feel a barrier, where you feel resistance, and then just breathe into that. And release that. Take your Right hand now, internally rotated, bring it onto your lower back. Left arm up. Bend the elbow. And go into the barrier that you feel the tension and just breathe into that. All right, cool. Release that. This will be important because you don't want to turn into such a buff person that you can't even like itch your face or something. So we do those stretches after so that that won't happen to you. Okay, cool. So I hope that you enjoyed this video. I'd love to hear your feedback. Leave a comment below. Hit the like button if you did like it. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. And also if you haven't been receiving my weekly emails, that's because I don't have you on the email list. So go to movementwithtim.com and I'll send you my weekly letter where I explain more about the video and just also in depth about theory sometimes not. And so make sure to go check that out. Have a great week and I'll see you next time.